Well, our next guest was raised in a union family and has given much of her adult life to the union movement. A fighter, not agreed with by all, but admired by many, including a surprisingly large number of her opponents. I'm going to swing round and address you as I say this, Helen Kelly. When Helen Kelly was diagnosed with terminal cancer, the president of the Council of Trade Unions gave up that job, but found herself with a new focus for her remarkable sense of purpose. Cannabis law reform, and immediately for you, Helen, legal access to cannabis for pain relief. And you've also made a submission to the Health Select Committee considering the issue of assisted dying. They're big subjects, but you've never been afraid of them, have you? Ever?
No, they are subjects that are right on the front of my mind at the moment, so I guess I've sort of got involved in them. And it seemed to me you couldn't take illegal cannabis and let other families to be absolutely deprived of it that would like to use it and not speak up, not take advantage of the privilege that you've got, getting what you need, and actually trying to push the issue forward.
So you've been sourcing illegal cannabis, right?
Yep.
What difference does it make to you?
It's fantastic. And, when I was at Teachers College, I hardly smoked anything, but I smoked a little bit. So it's the first reintroduction to this drug, and I take it at night, and it just makes me sleep, and it gets rid of the pain, and I wake up hungry. I don't throw up, which is all these symptoms you get from cancer.
Because you could have had morphine, right? Or something along those lines.
Yeah, well, I've got morphine, which is what they give you.
But it makes you feel terrible?
Yeah. It makes you feel exhausted, it blocks you up, you get a sore tummy. It doesn't last. So you wake up in the middle of the night really sore, and then you think, if I take another one, I won't wake up properly in the morning, I'll feel dopey in the morning.
Yeah.
So the product I've applied for has got a day one and a night. It's the pens that people smoke when they're giving up smoking, e-pens. And they've got two different brands of cannabis oil, and they're 30% of the Californian market. They're highly regarded as medical products. And so during the day you can take a lighter one which doesn't get you stoned, and then during the night time you can take a stronger one.
And do you get a bit stoned at night time?
You do get stoned, yeah. Well, of course that's what eases the pain, right? But you're asleep, so I wake up not stoned. And
feeling much, much better than you otherwise would have felt.
Yeah.
Right.
And when I feel sick, my doctors say, can you take some more?
Right, good doctor.
Yeah.
But the doctor says take some more, but can't give it to you.
Can't give it to me.
Okay,
and so here he is, he's filled in my application and said this would be hugely beneficial. It's a reputable product that New Zealand probably won't recognise because it's not pharmaceutical grade, even though none of the American products are. And I have to rely on Peter Dunn, Now,
Peter Dunn, in fact, I have a sneaking suspicion Peter Dunn's office, and maybe the Minister himself is listening to this. You sent something off. I'm a bit confused about who you sent it to, right? You sent
the Ministry of Health.
The Ministry of Health.
Who then make a recommendation to him.
So you're waiting to hear back.
Yeah. And his mantra is when Alex Renton, who was in terrible trouble in Wellington Hospital.
Young man in Nelson.
His mother had to protest at hospital and all that sort of stuff. He said, when I finally got the approval, I approved it in an hour. And so, here I am, day 2. I mean, these things take time. I'm really teasing him about that. But that was his defence. I approved it in an hour. The system doesn't work. That's the problem. It's taken me months and months and months to get the product, to talk to the exporter. I've got to get an import licence. I've got to go into hospital to have it administered if it's approved. I mean, it's a bloody pen with cannabis oil in it. It's just insane.
It does seem anachronistic, doesn't it? Now, there will be people listening who think, no, this is the thin edge of the wedge. But actually, your argument is it makes a material difference and it is much less dangerous, damaging and nausea-inducing than what you're actually already been offered.
Yeah, and while we can't get it legally, people are taking it illegally all around the country and giving it to kids and all sorts of stuff, untested, not designed for them. It's insane.
You are such a singular person, aren't you? I mean, even when you're really, really crook, you would just want to have a go. And I was looking at your Twitter page before, and there you are tweeting about farm hours again, which is, of course, it's very, the incredibly long hours that people work. You just don't give up, do you? Where does that come from, that kind of fearlessness and tenacity?
Well, I don't know where it comes from, but it was part of the job, and that's why I got the job. And health and safety has been my baby, right? And it's not going to improve in this country while farmers are able to do what they like and be unaccountable. They've got a special exclusion in the health and safety law.
And some of the jobs you've been, and all you do is tweet out jobs, right?
I know.
So you don't even editorialise much about it.
I know.
And some of them are 12 days on, 2 days off, 70 hours.
18 days on, 60 hours a week, less than the minimum wage per hour. Absolutely dangerous. And that explains to me not only the high turnover, we see massive turnover, almost 85% turnover in farming in 5 years. Very bad for the industry to get trained staff, and then you see all these accidents.
So what would you like to see happen that is realistic given the fact that farming is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Well, I would like an inquiry into farm work because I think it's a package. It's a package around terms and conditions, and they should regulate like they do for share milk contracts. Share milk contracts are set out in legislation. They should afford farm workers that privilege. They should investigate why these accidents are happening and talk to workers who've been hurt because they'll tell you, well, I did it on the 56th hour, whatever. And they should say to the federated farmers, you have to have a sustainable, we're not going to train your farm workers anymore until you can show us you can keep 30%, 40% for a period of time. Government's got a lot of leverage here. I mean, they're bailing out drought farmers down south. They are prepared to engage with farmers around their issues. They should engage around this. It's a farming issue.
You still care so passionately about this, don't you?
Well, I mean, you can't read the paper and see these deaths going on in farming and not know that it's the ultimate deregulated labour market. There's not a single collective agreement on farms in New Zealand.
When did you start going hard on safety and forestry? When was that? 3-4 years ago?
2012.
Yeah, and actually forestry was terrible. I mean, it was killing its workers with such a reckless disregard that it just appeared cynical.
It had 6,500 staff and over 1,000 were on ACC and had been on ACC for more than a year. They were so badly injured.
But now, actually, it's getting its act together, isn't it?
It's getting its act together, and they're proud of it. And the forestry owners have actually stepped into the space, which is what I find stunning.
So at first they would have thought, go away, Helen Kelly, leave us alone, you're a pain in the arse, you're unionist, all of that. And now they have bought in and they are proud of the upping of standards.
And they've got a standing committee that meets all the time that's talking about forestry safety. And the accident rate has gone down by 60% serious harm, which is incredible in about 18 months. And we've had about 3 deaths, whereas we had 10 a year, 7 a year. Suddenly we're down to very few. And forestry workers tell me it's made a hell of a difference to their working conditions. And that's what we want to do in farming. We want to mirror it.
You made a submission to the Health Select Committee on discussing assisted dying. And this is a really important quote from a lovely thing you wrote for Fairfax, which people can find online. It says, I could let myself die now. I could refuse treatment quite lawfully and die rather quickly. Instead, I'm trying to live, which is actually what most terminally ill people want. We don't actually want to die.
Yeah.
And I think that when people get all emotive, which is entirely understandable about assisted dying, they think that there's an element of suicide about it. But in fact, you're not remotely interested in dying, are you?
No, and I don't know if I'd even use assisted suicide. In fact, a large number of people get the pills and never use it because I think it's 60 to 80% get their pills and never use them. But having them there is a security. Knowing that's an option if it got too bad is a security. It's an incredibly complicated and emotional topic, and I don't pretend to have my opinion to be absolutely right. And there is no argument against it because I think there are risks and they have to be managed, and a low-funded health system creates a risk. I know that. So I am worried about that because I can see the shortfalls in the health system.
So what was your submission?
My submission was basically I support it. It can be made to work. We can play with it. We can try it. We can put special regulations around it, and we could make it part of the health system in New Zealand with those prerequisites that someone who's dying, they have to consent and be in a position to consent, those sorts of things.
You started off as a primary school teacher, didn't you? Was it Johnsonville, Maine? Johnsonville, Maine. And you have given so much of your life to the union movement and to fighting. And
I got made the delegate on the first day. First year teacher.
I wonder why. They were prescient. What would you most like to see in New Zealand's future?
Well, there's lots of things I'd like to see around the environment, all those things, but for workers what I would like to see is industry collective employment agreements that extend across all those truck drivers, all the issues we're hearing about now, all the migrant workers. If there were more bargaining in New Zealand, hours of work would be secure, wages would go with the economy, go up as the economy allowed. But instead, most workers have absolutely no rights at all. They're just at the mercy of their employer.
We've got about 45 seconds. Always the trade unionist, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's in my blood, and it's important work. It's important work, and basically, unions are public institutions. They have to advocate these things. Just like the media. When the media's under attack, everyone gets anxious. When Parliament's under attack, judges. Why not the unions? We're public institutions.
Yes. I've got to do a back announce, and the back announce was we asked Peter Dunn to join us tonight, because I suspect his office is listening. Rob Eadie from his office is listening, and we asked him to join us and he declined. But we will follow up next week, and we look forward to discussing your decision when you get it.
Yeah. Brilliant. You can come visit me in hospital when I get my first dose.
Okay. I'd love that. Thanks, Helen.
All right. Nice to see you, mate.
Fantastic to see you.
Cheers.
Great
See ya.
to see you.
Bye.